from the moment she was born. Though never had a complete home, her parents divorced when she was just 3 years old. In the faint memories of a child, all she could recall were the heavy arguments, her mother crying through the night, and the image of her father packing his bags and leaving without looking back. Her mother raised her with quiet endurance. There were no warm embraces, no comforting words, only 3 meals a day and brief instructions. Her father had remarried and occasionally sent money, but he never asked how his daughter was doing or how she was doing in school. To them, Though was like a burden split in half from a broken marriage. But Though grew up, beautiful, a soft, pure beauty, with deep eyes and skin as pale as morning mist. Even in her early years of middle school, she became the center of attention. Boys in school secretly admired her, sent her love notes, bought her drinks, saved her seats, but that very attention turned her into a thorn in the eyes of many girls. So what if she's pretty? Just a decorative doll. She thinks she's all that. Don't hang out with her, or she'll steal your boyfriend. Whispers behind her back, resentful glances, subtle exclusion crept into every school day. Though gradually learned to eat lunch alone, walk home quietly, and avoid all stares. She didn't argue back, never explained herself. She just focused on studying, always ranking first in class, receiving top student honors year after year. But every time she held that certificate in her hands, she looked down at the parent section of the audience. Her seat was always empty. No father, no mother, no one to be proud of her, no one to clap. She smiled faintly, a pale smile like a flower blooming in winter, radiant on the outside, frozen within. The achievements, the admiring looks, none of it meant anything when her heart was still a barren land, cracked and dry from a lack of love. Though grew up like a beautiful flower battered by wind and rain, she never rebelled, never blamed anyone. But deep inside, she slowly came to understand in this world, beauty isn't always a gift. It can be a mask hiding wounds, a mirror that reflects others' insecurities and invites their hatred. Though graduated high school with top honors, ranking first in the entire province, she won a full scholarship from a prestigious university in a major city, majoring in fashion design, a dream she had quietly nurtured through years of sketching in the corner of her small room. In addition to the scholarship, the school awarded her a large sum of financial aid for her outstanding achievements and difficult background. It was an amount of money that could change her life. Then, something no one expected happened. After years of complete silence, her father and mother suddenly reappeared, no longer distant names from her childhood. They came back with sweet smiles, words of affection, and hungry eyes. But not the hunger of love or reunion, it was the hunger for money. You're still young. Why bother going to college? Just get married and live comfortably. Give us the money. We'll keep it safe and take care of your future. Studying is a waste of time. A stable family is better. These were not the voices of people who had ever held her during sleep, attended a parent-teacher meeting, or held her hand in the hospital. Though sat in silence, every word from them slicing through her already calloused heart. They hadn't come to love her, they had come to claim what she had earned. She said nothing for most of the conversation, but in the end, her eyes turned cold. Where were you when I stood on stage with my certificate? Where were you when my classmates turned their backs on me? I was a child nobody wanted, and now I don't need anyone. She turned away and opened the door. Not a single tear, no hesitation. In that moment, there was no longer a fragile petal, she was a storm. A silent, relentless force, sweeping away all that was undeserving. Her parents left in anger and frustration, taking with them the same selfishness they had lived with all along. Though used most of the money to support her maternal grandparents, the ones who had quietly raised her on boiled vegetables and lullabies. They were her true home. They never asked for anything, but she was willing to give them everything. With the rest, she packed her things. A small suitcase, a few sets of clothes, an old sketchbook, and a heart that still ached but now knew exactly where it was going. The city loomed ahead like a strange new world, both dazzling and dangerous. But though did not waver, she walked forward with steady eyes, carrying her dream of design, and for the first time in her life she no longer felt alone. Life seemed to have settled, but for though, peace was only a pause between the storms. In her second year of university, she met Fong, a man who entered her life like the first cold gust of winter. He was the only son of a powerful business dynasty, owner of a luxury fashion house catering exclusively to the elite. Tall, composed, with piercing eyes sharp as a blade, Fong rarely smiled, but when his gaze landed on someone, it was as if they were stripped bare. They'll met him at a fashion exhibition where she was assisting her mentor. In a room filled with the rich and famous, no one paid her much attention until Fong's eyes stopped on her, a sketchbook in her hand. "You're a design student?" His voice was deep, steady, emotionless. "Yes, I am. I own a fashion brand. Want to try working for me?" One sentence, one invitation, like a golden ticket into a world others only dreamed of, and she said yes, from gentle wind to storm. In just a few short months, with her talent and rare beauty, though quickly won over nearly all the high-profile female clients in Fong's network, she was trusted with VIP fittings, custom design consultations, and was even once invited to present her ideas to international investors. Money began to pour in, though could send more home to her grandparents. She moved into her own apartment, bought a high-end design laptop, and for the first time in her life, owned the kind of things she used to only admire behind store windows. And she also fell in love with Fong. She loved how he commanded respect without needing to speak. She loved his cold, calculated demeanor. There was awe, desire, and a hint of fear in her affection. Fong wasn't gentle. He didn't ask many questions, but he gave her opportunity, power, and a place others only dreamed of. Intoxication in the shadow behind glamour, but the price of that spotlight wasn't cheap. To maintain good relationships with elite clients, they began to be invited to accompany Fong to business events. At first, it was just light afternoon teas, then exclusive lounges, and eventually long nights sitting beside powerful men and women, raising glasses, smiling politely, listening to hollow but influential conversations. They began to drink. At first, just a few sips for formality, but soon, alcohol dulled her exhaustion, blurred the judgmental stares, and made her sharp enough to survive in that curated high-class atmosphere. She started coming home later and later, sometimes past midnight, sometimes at dawn. Her face was still beautiful, but her eyes now shimmered with a quiet fatigue. "I'm fine," she told a concerned classmate. "It's just part of the job." But deep down, she knew something inside her had begun to shift, though had become a constant shadow at Fong's side, like a silent, elegant ornament always present at the right events, in the right outfits. Fashion galas, private business dinners, luxury lounge meetings, she was the soft face that charmed, without ever overshadowing Fong's authority. But that unspoken boundary shattered on a stormy night after a particularly long and exclusive party. That evening, though drank more than usual, the client was a Korean investor, and the event was held in a 5-star hotel, with foreign liquor flowing freely. Fong sat beside her, his hand lightly resting on her back, his smile saying what his lips didn't drink. "It's fine," though smiled. Though her vision blurred, her head spun, everything was smoke and heat and glitter. She didn't quite remember how she got to the hotel room. When she woke up, the room was cold and dim. Her dress was disheveled. Her first time had been taken. Fong stood by the window, shirt unbuttoned, cigarette between his fingers. "What did you do?" Her voice trembled. Fong turned. His eyes were steel calm, unapologetic. "You're beautiful, and you were drunk." "I just took what was going to be mine eventually." Though froze, her throat tightened, her legs trembled, but she stood, pulling her dress together, avoiding his gaze. Fong sat on the edge of the bed, exhaling smoke, looking at her like a man inspecting something he just bought. If you really want to go far in this industry, you need to learn how to serve clients properly. Just sleep with a few of them, secure the deals, and you'll be rewarded. Better than working your ass off for 10 years. It wasn't a snake bite that broke her. It was that light, effortless tone killing something inside her. Though didn't cry, she didn't scream. She silently picked up her heels, stepped out of the room, each step pressing down on the shattered pieces of her own heart. That night, the rain kept falling, masking the sound of a sob that never quite made it out of her throat, the sound of a girl who once believed in love.
Sold to the shadows after that night. Though thought she could escape Fong, she stopped answering his calls, left the company, and even requested a temporary leave of absence from school, citing personal reasons. But Fong wasn't someone to let things go so easily. "You owe me. You humiliated me in front of my clients," he said coldly. "If you want to leave, pay me back every cent you've spent." And just as she struggled to find a way out, disaster struck. Her grandmother called her in tears. Her grandfather had suffered a stroke, was in critical condition, and required immediate surgery. The cost was overwhelming for a university student, the doctor said. If they didn't operate that night, he wouldn't survive. Those sat alone in the hospital hallway, numb, helpless. That night, she picked up her phone and called Fong. "I'll do it, but only until I earn enough to save my grandfather." Fong didn't even sound surprised. He only chuckled softly, like a man who knew his prey would return eventually. Thus, the doors to that hidden world swung wide open. She was escorted to high-end parties, exclusive gatherings for the powerful, where women were accessories and deals were sealed not only with handshakes but with. Thor was introduced as a special assistant for VIP client, a polite euphemism for something much darker. At first, she slapped an older man who tried to undress her. She screamed, fought back, cried. But later that same night, standing outside the hospital room, hearing the words, "We can't operate without a deposit," Thor realized she had no other choice. She returned, silent, dry-eyed, and gave away her body to preserve someone else's life. She promised herself, just until this is over, just until he's healed. But in a world like that, there is no such thing as just once. Chapter 7, Blood That Runs Black, the surgery succeeded. Her grandfather survived. For a short time, Thor allowed herself to believe the storm had passed. But peace never lasted long in her life. Somehow, rumors of her wealth in the city reached her estranged parents one rainy afternoon. Her grandmother called, panicking. "Your parents came back. They're tearing the house apart. They say we're hiding your money." Thor rushed back home. When she arrived, the scene was chaos. Her father, drunk and unkempt, lounged arrogantly in the middle of the yard. Her mother, caked in cheap makeup, was tearing through drawers looking for envelopes. "Where's the money?" she said. "She's our daughter. Her money is ours." Her grandmother, frail and trembling, collapsed from stress and was rushed to the hospital once again. Thor, burning with fury, screamed, "You're not my parents. You're leeches." Out of desperation, she called Fong. He arrived the next day in a sleek black car. He said nothing at first, but then, with chill and calm, he called the police. "Officer, this is Fong from ML Group. I need to report a case of trespassing, elder abuse, and attempted extortion." Her parents turned pale with fear. "You'd call the cops on your own family," her father shouted. "You've never been my family," Thor answered coldly. Police arrived within the hour. With witness statements and hospital documents, her parents had no way. They were taken in for questioning. For the first time in their lives, they tasted fear that wasn't theirs to inflict. Afterward, Fong stood beside Thor outside the hospital. "I'm sorry," he said, voice soft and genuine. "I thought you were like all the others. I was wrong. You're stronger than any of us." Thor didn't reply. But something in her eyes, long, dark, and hollow, began to flicker. Not with love, but with the quiet recognition of someone who had survived everything. Chapter 8. A woman's choice. Fong asked her to marry him. He brought her the most expensive ring in his newest collection. He even bent a knee, something no one had ever seen him do. But Tho shook her head. I can't marry you. Why not? Because I'm tainted. I'm not whole. You think I care about that? I want someone strong enough to raise my child. Not a perfect bride. She smiled, tired but calm. That's exactly why I won't marry you. I won't let our child grow up in a marriage born of guilt and mistakes. She chose to walk away from the altar. No wedding, no vows, no rings. Just a woman, independent, carrying a child who was the product of her darkest days and her first real strength.
Her daughter was born on an autumn morning, beautiful, with brown eyes and a quiet aura. Thou named her My Lin, meaning a pure blossom that blooms from the mud. Fong never married anyone else. He remained beside Tho, supporting her career quietly. With his resources and her talent, Tho Design became a global fashion name, gracing runways in Paris, Milan, Tokyo. Tho became a symbol not of scandal or shame, but of strength, of a woman who built an empire from broken pieces. She had 3 more daughters, all with Fong, but they never lived as husband and wife. Instead, they shared life as soulmates, to wounded souls who found peace not through romance, but through companionship. Their 4 daughters grew up in love and discipline. None of them ever touched the path their mother once walked. My Lin became a human rights advocate. The second, a compassionate psychologist. The third, a tech designer for disabled children. The youngest, a painter who captured her mother's life in brushstrokes. Final scene, the last bloom as Tho aged. Her hair turned silver. She spent most days in the garden behind their villa, among plum blossoms and quiet winds. Fong brought her tea with shaking hands. If there's another life, he asked one day, would you want to start over? She looked out at the falling petals. No need, she whispered, because this life, I bloomed even in the storm.